Welcome everybody, Shiur number 640. We're learning today L'Refuah Shalema Liba Bas Golda Bas Sheva. Shtakav Refuah Shalema B'soich Sha'ar Choyle Yisrael. Okay, getting back to our malacha of KOSHAIR, tying knots. Okay, so I want to talk today a little bit about the double knot, but when it's loose. We spoke about a double knot, making a double knot, or the Rama said either a double knot or making a single knot at the end of a string. So we said that was not allowed. Because why? Because it's muhudak, it's very tight, and in general, when one makes a regular double knot, one knot and then a double knot, we're not talking about a bow, we're not talking about the slip knot, which we spoke about last time, but a regular double knot, one on top of the other, and it's tight. In general, that is what we call says the Rama, a craftsman's knot, which would be also to do even for less than 24 hours. So the Mishnah Berurah told us, Lamaisa, that, like we said, the double knot, it's tight, and that's why it's a question of being a craftsman's knot. We're not sure what's a craftsman's knot, but we're going to call something that's tight and hard to open a craftsman's knot. So told us the Rama, and the Mishnah Berurah explains so on. Now, but the question is, what about if the double knot that the person makes is loose, and it's not tight, it's taka very loose? Would that also be a problem, or is it only a problem of a double knot whereby it's tight? So the Sefer Klalim brings from the KOSHAIR Shulchan that says like this. He brings like this on page Kuf in the Sefer Klalim. He says brings the KOSHAIR Shulchan, which is brought down in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. He says, "Hevi a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch kasav she'asur likshar hamitpachas." One would not be allowed to tie a mitpachas like a kerchief, a handkerchief, a shawl, something like that. Kesher bekesher al gabe kesher b'Shabbos. In other words, one would not be allowed to tie it around the neck with a double knot. Again, they wind it and then they make another knot. That should not be done. That's what we call a double knot. The other type of knot, which we were talking about, by the way, was the whereby the shoe, it's okay. We said it's the winding, the twining of the laces once and then making a bow. But over here, we're talking about the winding of the laces, making a knot. Okay, fine. So that's the double knot. And it's tight and it doesn't open. So says the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch not to do that on if somebody's wearing a kerchief, a shawl, handkerchief around their neck. But he brings down, so then comes along the KOSHAIR Shulchan and says, KOSHAIR Shulchan Sham Kosav she'ein haderech likshar hamitpachas ala tzavar b'chayzik. That the derech is, the way is that when one ties this kerchief or shawl around their neck, which is where it usually goes, around the shoulders and neck, it's not tied tight. And then he says, does the KOSHAIR Shulchan, that since it's not tied tight, lo yhaveh kesher uman. It would not be considered a kesher uman, a craftsman's knot. Because the whole reason why we said why it's a problem of a craftsman's knot, because it's considered tight, and therefore it's very hard to open. So that then it's falling into a question of a craftsman's knot for even less than 24 hours. One will not be allowed to tie it. But over here, these kerchiefs, shawls, and the like, says the KOSHAIR Shulchan, these are not tied tight, and it's not considered a kesher uman. Mikol makom, he does end off because of the nocha. It is better to tie it with, like we know, the way that's allowed to be done 100%, with the bow on top of the knot. Again, the twining of the laces or the single twine of the kerchief or shawl once, and then to make a bow. But then again, that we have to keep in mind, the halach is on the knot, and then the bow, the twining of the laces once, and then the bow on top, that has to be open within 24 hours. It would not be a craftsman's knot, but it would have to be open within 24 hours. Okay, so we see from the KOSHAIR Shulchan that a loose double knot, the whole issue of a double knot, the problem is when it's tight. But if it's loose, there's definitely yesh al milismach, there's definitely a mokum to be more makel. So with that brings down the Sefer Klalim, two beautiful examples. Yeshayim shemuta likshar sudar shemunach saviv letzavari. Like we said, one will be allowed to wrap a scarf, for example. You have it a lot of times in the winter, a scarf, kerchief, shawl, or the like, around one's neck, but kesher al gabe kesher, with a double knot, kesher einoi koishe b'chayzek, when it's not tied tightly. And also it's made to open within 24 hours, because usually a person wearing a scarf is going to be opening it up within 24 hours. One should be careful, taka, not to pick it up pick it up like that and just take it off and leave it like that. But just to open up the double knot, to have like a regular scarf that around one's neck, to tie lightly a double knot, it shouldn't fall off, would be fine. Kerchief, shawl, all the like, double knot, as long as it's not too tight, would be fine, as long as they open it within 24 hours. Now, the interesting case he brings down, Yeshemim Shemuter Likshar, that those who want to say, like we said, Shemuter Likshar Rashe Sakis Ashba, to a garbage bag. One wants to tie a garbage bag with a double knot. Again, the same thing, you twine it once, you grab the two sides, twine it once, and then make a knot on top. But again, you're doing it nice, very lightly. In other words, not tightly, not tight. When it's not tied tight. Choice also again when it's going to be opened within 24 hours. Now, he brings out an example, like, in other words, how loose should it be, roughly? He brings an example, interesting, that one wants to put in there more garbage. They'll make just a double knot, like a loose double knot on top of the garbage bag, like this. It won't smell, garbage won't fall out. But they in a case like that, they want to open it and put in some more garbage during the course of Shabbos. So such a light double knot where it's not tied tightly, even on top of a garbage bag, would be okay. But again, being careful, one should be careful to make sure to open it within 24 hours. Okay, so just to read from the Sefer Ayal Mashulish, also he says on page Kufnun Aleph that that there are those who are makel when you double knot something when it's not tight. That's all. When it's not tight, why? What's the reason? That, in other words, by just plain push it the usage, it's going to start to open up. Again, if you ever think about it, this person has a scarf around their neck and they double knot it, and it's loose, move it here, move it there, it just falls apart and opens up. So it's not mehudik, it's not tight. The garbage bag also, like we said, you pick up the garbage bag, even if it's double knotted, but it's very loosely double knotted, in general it's just falling apart. So he brings on the same case, mitpachas anoshim, like again, a shawl, a scarf, or the like, woman wears around the neck, shekosher mishnei ksharm, with two knots, lefisha boifin zeh, vadei eina bechlal kesher chayzek, v'amitz. It's not a tight type of a knot, and that would also be fine. Again, just making sure to open it within 24 hours. He does say, though, there are those who are machmir, even when it's not tight, so if possible, but the most important thing is one should make sure to open it up, within 24 hours, and not just to leave the scarf like that when they take it off. One more last example, just to read out of the Sefer Lamites Malachos. We went through this a few shiurim ago, but just to chazer over again, it's very important to get all the examples and chazer over the details. There's a lot of details involved. He says like this on page 797, does the Sefer Lamites Malachos, it is permissible, it is allowed to make a loose double knot when tying a belt or a sash around one's waist of a coat or a robe, right? Like we spoke about last time, one has like a raincoat, a fancy Shabbos raincoat, they just like double knot the sash around or the belt around their waist, and it just falls apart. It just, it's very easy to open up. It's nothing tight. That would not be a problem. Sometimes on a robe you have the same thing. A light double knot, not tight, will be fine. He just finishes off. Such knots are ordinarily loose because the person wearing the coat intends to undo the knot shortly afterwards and obviously does not wish to struggle to undo it later, which would be the tight double knot, and which would be the reason why somebody ties a tight double knot, which is not allowed, so that it stays tight for a long period of time. And it's strong. You can't just open it unless you start to untwine the ropes or the string or the belt from inside one another, and it's very hard to do. But when it's light, it's made specifically, when it's not tight, it's made specifically to easily be opened. And just one more thing, he says a knot that is very loose, for example, would soon become undone on its own, for example, like we saw in the Ayal Mashulish. Others, such a knot would not be usher to make, such a double knot would not be usher to make on Shabbos. And the bottom line is, like he says also, furthermore, this loose knot will be untied within 24 hours, which is one should be careful to do. Thank you for listening. Atzlach and bracha, kol tov.